The voters are the lion, the king of the jungle. And I think, the whole thing really backfired on all of them. Now, we know why they were trying to do this, because they can't stand top two and they're trying to get rid of top two. And so they used all of this as a pretext for trying to get rid of a system and take back control and basically take away from 6.9 million no party preference and other registered Californians. They're trying to take away those people's right to participate, to vote. They're trying to take away the 7 million people right to vote in the California primaries.
The deltas are big enough, though, that unless something crazy happens, it's going to be a Hilton Becerra. So after all the hoopla of scaring people into there's going to be 2 Republicans and then, there's going to be 2 Democrats, it appears it'll be a traditional Republican-Democrat race.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Independent Voter Podcast. I'm here with Chad and Cara. Cara's made it all the way over to the West Coast now, out here in California, and we got Chad all the way down south in Brazil right now during the primary election. So we got kind of an international news crew here, which I think is exciting. We get to provide alternate perspectives and really dig into what's going on from an independent perspective, of course. How are you guys doing today?
Tudo bem.
Okay.
I'm doing great. I got to vote in California yesterday, Ethan and Chad. I'm so excited. I'm a Californian now.
Yeah, that's a big change. I mean, I can only imagine already enjoying the weather. Back to your childhood roots, right? Back to the West Coast. How does it feel? How does it feel?
It feels like home. It feels really good to be in California. I have to tell you, I think I'm happier than I've ever been in my whole life. So
there we go. Okay, well, I think we got some pretty, interesting results to dig into today. It's literally just the morning after the primary voting closed in California. So we've got currently, I'm looking on just, the news records here. And we got Steve Hilton leading at 27.8%. And then we got Becerra in second place at 25.4%. And then followed up by Steyer at 19.5%. And then I believe we have Bianco behind him at 11.3%. So that's the preliminary results, but it's too early to call still. What do you think?
What percentage is that in, Ethan, when you're looking at that? Is it like 50, 60%, 70%?
They don't even know because there's ballots still in the mail. There's still the way.
Yeah, it says that exactly. It says we're at 57.5% of the expected votes are turned in. There's estimated 3.68 million still to come in. So wow. It's only 50% of the way. Yeah. So
the deltas are big enough, though, that unless something crazy happens, it's going to be a Hilton Becerra. So after all the hoopla of scaring people into there's going to be 2 Republicans and then, there's going to be 2 Democrats, it appears it'll be a traditional Republican-Democrat race. And, I think the person that's got to be most disappointed across the country yesterday is Mr. Steyer. The poor billionaire, I think, is now up to about $600 million spent losing elections pretty badly.
There's no such thing as a poor billionaire, though. Right?
I don't know, Cara. I don't know.
Do you feel bad for him? Like, that is a lot of money, right? He spent something like $200 million in California or more.
Do I feel bad? No, I think there's other things to feel bad about. I don't need to spend some energy there.
He ran a very spirited campaign, though, you have to say. Like
he did. He did. He worked hard. He did. He didn't call it in. Like some people he resonated with. But
he came out for ranked choice voting.
He did. Well, he said his wife. He was forced into it because he would be divorced if his wife found out he didn't support it. So
there you go. Happy wife, happy life. Happy wife,
right.
Happy life.
Yeah, that's how we're making our political decisions now, based on I'm sure it's probably happened a lot.
Trust me, my mom made half of my dad's political decisions throughout his life.
Wait, don't you come from a family where your mother is a Republican and your father's a Democrat, Chad?
Yeah, my mom's a pro-death Republican. So there's pro-life Republicans. My mom's pro-death Republican.
Oh, that's lovely.
She's conservative, except she's for all the things like abortion, death penalty, So we called her, we jokingly call her a pro-death Republican.
My father is a Republican also, and my mother is a Democrat. And I think, Ethan, both your parents are Dems, right?
Yes, this is true.
Pretty
This is true,
independent
but
Dems.
yeah, I would say relatively independent. We had some good civil discourse growing up, of course, and I would say I probably read the news more than them growing up. I mean, I'm pretty depressed now that the morning paper no longer arrives at our house every morning. So
Really? They stopped
that was
getting the
how.
Seattle paper, huh?
Yep, no more Seattle Times. It just no one was reading it except for me, and now I'm gone. So it
So
is
do you
what
have
it
a
is.
newspaper delivered to you now, Ethan? Or do you just
I
do all
have
digital?
I have legitimately considered it, but I'm not enough of a morning person to really unpack. I don't really have like a sit down and have breakfast. There's no one making me French toast, no one making me oatmeal in the morning. So it's
making me this.
that's
Sounds
what
like Ethan needs a partner.
Hey,
It's a cooking lesson.
Right. Either way, one of those things. It's more like I just don't want to sacrifice those last 30 minutes of sleep in the morning. It's cooking, food. We don't need that.
One day
Anyways,
we're going to teach you what 7 a.m. is. That's when all the real work gets done.
right. No, I've heard about
that is one really weird thing is I used to always be 3 hours ahead of you guys. And so,
yeah.
if I was waking up at 6, that's 3:00 in the morning for you. And I was able to accomplish
in the morning.
You still can. I'm still going to, it's just going to be, different. I like it better here though. I have to say it's really, but it is really strange being on West Coast time instead of East Coast time. But I wanted just to say that about Tom Steyer. So he spent maybe $200 million, but he did really run a very spirited campaign, I think. And I think we did some research yesterday, and I did a story for Independent Voter News about the amount of negative politicking that went on. And Steyer, when I looked at all of his statements, his sort of on the record in debates, comments, and work on the campaign trail was pretty positive, but his ads were really negative, particularly towards the end. And it turns out that the people who were the most positive in the California governor's race, who ran sort of the most positive campaigns when we looked at everything, were the two people who came in. Thurmond, of course, was the most positive. He ended up with probably 1%. And then Mahan was the second most positive. And, Bianco was the most negative, and Steyer and Becerra were sort of in between. Sort of interesting. And we kind of posited, what if there had been ranked choice voting, or had there been top 4 with ranked choice voting? Would it have been a more positive race about ideas, or would it have been sort of the same negative? What do you think, Chad?
I don't know. It's hard to pontificate because we don't even know how this election's going to settle. But you have totally different dynamics. Maybe you have different people that run, and the important thing is that the real decisions being made in the general election instead of the primary, right? So
and by
much
voters and not by political pundits,
right, by voters, and that's what's been frustrating the political pundits and consultants this whole election cycle is the level of uncertainty, right? Where you go to New Jersey that just had a primary where they legally preclude independents from voting at all. Right. It's like, oh, that person got Trump's endorsement, they win. Oh, that person got, that person got, the Shapiro's endorsement. Oh, they win. And it's like, there's no convincing that needs to go on. It's not, the voters aren't deciding, it's the powers that be. Right. So, that's confounded the consultants and the pollsters and everybody else. Oh, who's going to win this? How's it going to come out? What are these independents going to do? What are they going to, right? And hey, what if democracy wasn't supposed to be able to be decided by somebody sitting behind a a polling, a poll or a major endorsement? Like,
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we want more power to the voters, right? And if we allow these, as you like to say, the party insiders, or the parties to take control of the outcome of the elections, what we're going to see is more people dissatisfied with the process. And that's why we like this open process here in California. And I think it worked. I think it's
interesting is we did a poll, Latinos only. I don't think anybody else did a poll that was just Latinos, right? And I think,
did you do that statewide or just in LA?
Statewide.
Statewide. Oh, that's cool.
Statewide in California. 30% or so were Spanish speaking. And It's interesting. I mean, intuitively, as you would expect, they tended to have a wide margin for Becerra. But
Mm-hmm.
we asked him about the only other question we asked him about was the top two stuff, right? I mean, 80% want a form of an open primary. Only 20% of them had any interest in going to a
Yes.
partisan-based closed primary system.
The only people who want to close it back up are, the super insiders from the Democratic Party and the Republican
Right.
Party. Those guys, they're incentivized. They want to control it. They can't stand it that the voters are in control of the system. And so it's interesting. Of course, Latinos are not going to want to take away their own freedom. Like, because aren't NPP voters, no party preference voters in California, isn't there a huge chunk of them that are Latino?
Oh, Latinos are more likely to be independent than any other group, right? They
Interesting.
register
Okay.
as independents in greater numbers than anybody, right? And, you get these political discussions nationally and on TV. Oh, the independents went with Trump. They're Republicans now. And then the next thing, oh, they went with it. No, it's because they're using their vote of where it can be most effective, right? But that doesn't change that. It's just so frustrating having the discussion. And then the folks being excited by the news stories, right, as these independent pollsters and stuff. These are the same people that fear-mongered everybody and that there would be two Republicans in the general
Let's talk
election.
about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, Chad. Okay, so like what happened, right? There was this, and we've spoken about it already before in the podcast, but there was this huge sort of panic angst that rippled through all of the press, all of the pundits, everybody saying, oh my God, there's going to be two Republicans that are going to get into the top two in California in a state where there's 45% Democrats. So this was a total fabrication. This was never going to happen, that there was going to be two Republicans in California that made it into the top two. But the Democrats and the Democratic insiders were pushing this narrative. And I think they were doing it for one of two reasons.
The quote unquote experts that the media keeps calling were literally in on the manufacturing of the narrative, which is,
right.
That's, it's just call somebody that doesn't have a dog in the fight, and maybe they don't understand the depth to which these folks are embedded in the partisan system and have an interest in extending it. But it's unbelievable that they're going to go and they're going to call the exact same people that fearmongered the whole country and that there was going to be two Republicans. Meanwhile, we were sitting here and we did a poll. If you recall, it wasn't until we did our poll that it turned for Becerra.
We were the first poll that showed Becerra surging after Swalwell got out.
Because we're the first poll that we actually wanted to know what the voters thought. We weren't producing it for the purpose of manufacturing fear over here, a cause to raise money over here, right? I mean, look at like who funds most of these polls. We talk about them as if like, oh my God, just because the institution is on it. It's like, well, who most of the time they're trying to manufacture a narrative to raise money, to do this, to do that. And in this case, they were killing two birds with one stone by trying to go after the top two, which they know is popular. And this was a chance for them to go and paint it as a bad thing. And then two, raise money. Oh my God, we got to go do it. And
maybe even to juice turnout for Dems, right? Like to say like, oh my God, it's going to be two Republicans. So maybe it was also to juice turnout for Dems, which is,
to do fundraising. But let us not forget, and I'm sure Becerra does not forget, that the Democratic Party chair wanted, who looks like he could very likely be the first Latino governor of California in our history, at one point asked him to drop out of the race because of a manufactured narrative, right?
That's right.
That is
bad.
Right. And somehow they want to blame problems with our elections because we treat all voters the same. When you have these operatives that were dishonest with the press, put pressure on minority candidates to drop out of the race because they wanted to make sure the candidate they really liked got through. Right. And this is exactly why both sides hate top two. Right. The voters got the last laugh.
The voters are the
Yes.
lion. The voters
King
are
of
the
the jungle.
lion. The king of the jungle, definitely. And I think too that, the whole thing really backfired on all of them. Now, we know why they were trying to do this, because they can't stand top two and they're trying to get rid of top two. And so they used all of this as a pretext for trying to get rid of a system and take back control and basically take away from 6.9 million no party preference and other registered Californians. They're trying to take away those people's right to participate, to vote. They're trying to take away the 7 million people right to vote in the California primaries. How can that at all be possible? How can they try to say that they're for democracy and be doing this at the same time? I don't know, but we're going to fight it, right? We're going to fight it every step of the way.
I think here's the fundamental shift going on. And look, this discussion needs to happen within the reform movement itself, but that's something that's going on nationally, right? And it's totally under discussed. Everybody talks outcomes. Oh, we could have had 2 Republicans. Oh, we could have had this. We could have had that. Nonsense. Okay. It's a real simple question that needs to be the question across the country. And you can understand that position of ignoring 6.9 million voters if your answer to this question is different. So that question is, where does the right to vote derive, right?
Right.
If the right to vote derives by participating with the Republicans or the Democrats, right? That question, the 6.9 votes didn't vote. All that matters is who the Republicans and the Democrats elect, right? That's a party-centric system. There's folks in the reform space that actually want more hyper-partisanship, and I want them to come on the show and let's have a healthy discussion about it, right? And understand why we think that's a better solution. But the answer that I think we have and that we've been promoting, look, we never said we're an unbiased news network. We said we're a voter-centric news network that has all kinds of biases and saying, but on that premise, if we believe the right to vote derives from the voter, right? Before they join a party, whether or not they're gay, straight, woman, man, whatever, it derives from the voter. And so from that,
the citizen, right? The citizen voter
who's eligible to vote. So you don't get to say, oh, this group of people get to participate at the first stage of the election and this group doesn't because they haven't joined your association. Now,
but that's what makes California so special, right? Because we have the system, the voters enacted it, and the voters chose it. It wasn't chosen by the politicians. It was chosen by the voters, that they wanted to avail themselves of the right to participate in the primary, but also to have the real person who gets elected be chosen at the place where the most people vote, right? To be chosen in the general election as opposed to predetermined in the primary election, which is why it would be so cool if now, given all this discussion around top two, what if we reformed the reform? What if instead of 2 people coming through to November, what if we could have 4 or 5 people come through to November, and then in the November election in California, be able to rank those choices in order of preference, use ranked choice voting in the general election, elect somebody with a majority in the same way. We get rid of the first past the post system, which is awesome. And, I think that sometimes when there are obstacles to things, it actually allows for there to be an even better outcome. So maybe this resistance to the top 2 has allowed us to explore what would be even better, which is maybe a top 4 or top 5 system. What do you think about that, Ethan?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, this whole undo the top 2 thing, if there was really a problem, why are they're trying to say we need reform before the election results are even completed, right? If there is a problem and all of a sudden, this bad thing that they're predicting happened, they should try and address the problem after the primary election is over, because then you can, actually point to the problem.
But who is it a problem for? Is right? It's
they do have a problem. They do have a problem.
Which is that they can control it.
It's the irony is that, if you listen to the national narrative and you listen to those very same pundits who say top 2 didn't do anything if it didn't do anything, that means why would you change it? Nothing's changed, right? But are so insistent on going back. And then they get quoted, and I can't know how many times nothing's changed. Top 2 hasn't done anything in California. Bullshit. It's just frankly bullshit. What they don't like is there's lots of shades of blue in California, and there's shades of blue that think for themselves, right? And when somebody's in the party leadership or something that says, you got to do this and you got to do that, they say, I don't want to. They get upset about it, right? It's that simple. And that's what they don't like about it. And then when you go on
well,
to
that's the thing is
Republican
when the leaders of both major parties agree that a reform should be undone, Chad and Ethan, it means the reform is working. It's just not working for them, right?
But in the Republicans' case, it doesn't even make sense for them. I mean, I have lots of friends that are in the Republican side of the aisle in California, and I keep telling them, I go, their reaction, oh, there's top 2, and sometimes it's dem on dem races and everything, let's get rid of it. I go, well, first of all, you guys have the most self-inflicted wound in history, right?
The Republicans.
California still on the presidential level has a semi-closed primary, which means the party can decide. So the Democratic Party's decided to open it and let people in. Republicans have kept it closed. So they've gone, oh, we don't want any of you guys participating in our private primary that you pay for in the presidential election. But come to the general election, we really want you to vote for our candidates, right? And they somehow have not made the connection in their head that that's not a good way to make friends, right? They have not put that together that, well, the Democrats are actually talking to these voters and inviting them to participate while you guys sit over here and say, hey, we're going to go and build something without any of your input. We actually don't care. We don't want it, but we will in a couple months. And they think they don't see the correlation between that decision and the absolute downfall of their party. And those same people are saying, no, it's not because of things like that. It's because we had a top 2 nonpartisan primary. That's why we have the downfall. These people, it's the same people that have led the irrelevance of the Republican Party that are the ones pushing this. And unfortunately, right, if you're thinking about elections and with the frame of mind of party first, right? I understand how they come to that conclusion. Now, if somebody could get in their mind and say, you know what, the best way for Republicans to come back to relevance in California is to actually talk to more people because you're only 20% of the electorate now, right? Then I think there is a pathway to coming back and having influence in California again. They actually had a pretty good election so far in California, beyond expectations. Now, in order to hold that, they got to show that they actually care what a significant portion of voters think that are not members of their party.
Totally. And you know what else about the whole top 2? Oh, the top 2 made no difference. When we looked at the legislature this week at Independent Voter News, we looked at the demographics of the California legislature from 2009, 2010, and then the current. So let me just tell you real quickly what happened. So in 2009, 2010, the California state legislature that was elected under the old closed primary system was 73% men. Women held just 33 of the 120 seats. Fast forward 16 years later under top 2, women hold 59 out of 120 seats in the legislature. So that's a 79% increase, okay? The state Senate is now a majority women. And so people of color, by the way, also have gone from holding 37% of the seats in the California legislature to 55%.
So what do you
And it's
say
the
to
Latino and Hispanic legislators that account for so much of that growth. Let me tell you what happened with Latina women, you guys. In 2009, Latina women held 8 seats out of 120. Now they hold 25. So now 1 in 5 California legislators is a Latina woman.
Wow.
So don't tell me that top 2 made no difference. It's made a huge difference.
Correlation's not causation. I mean, that's going to be your first, response.
Explain that.
I'm just gonna say, I can already hear them. Correlation's not causation. So what do you
All
think?
right, well, we could just show you the numbers that we got from the California State Library and, show you exactly what happened to the makeup. And, it's a great thing that's happened. Now the California legislature more reflects the demographics of California. Like what's wrong with
Yeah, I
that?
mean, what else changed so much, right? If you're debating correlation versus causation, like what else could have had such a large impact than reforming the very election system that puts those people in power in the first place, right? And I think that exactly like you were saying, Cara, earlier, like if we have a reform, we know that it's a step in the right direction, regardless of whether it's working 100% or whether it's working 50%. Why would you walk back on that reform? Let's improve it. Let's take it to the next step.
So let's go to
Absolutely.
let's go back to a place like Texas that just had 7% turnout, and that, so what is it? 3% of the electorate is the ones really putting the candidates onto the general election ballot, or New Jersey, where half of the electorate doesn't get to participate. And so it's like where every single outcome is an unusual outcome because it doesn't reflect at all the breadth of the electorate. But there might be some outlier cases that are most of the time just manufactured fear, right? That might not get the right result, and the answer is to go back to like the shittiest system you can possibly do, instead of saying, "Oh, how might we improve this?"
Yeah,
I think that's what we're going to do, right? That's what we're going to do.
Exactly. That is what we're going to do. And, I think it's about time to wrap it up here. We've had a great conversation about the election and all
We've done a lot of focus on California lately. Sorry to you all who aren't from California, but there is a lot of action going on in this space that will matriculate. I promise we'll bring up some stories across the country here soon.
Exactly. And keep an eye out for our guests as well. We've got guests from all over the country. So, if you want,
we
want more
actually have one coming
content?
up today, right? We have an independent candidate that we're going to interview today, Jason Failer. So we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, we'll check in with you all next week on, the true election results, and we'll see who was right.
Maybe we'll have
this.
them in a week from now. We'll be able to find out what exactly.
Yeah, but I can say the trend, knock on wood, the trend is, independent voters they came out in greater numbers so far in California. We'll see if the trend holds. That could have, that had an impact up and down the state. Unfortunately, there's a lot of states where independent voter turnout didn't change because they're not allowed to vote.
Actually, Sean Griffiths wrote a piece this week in IVN about the 6 states that did vote yesterday. Each one has different rules for independent candidates. So what a mess.
Yeah, shocking. Yeah. All right. Well, you guys stay safe out there in Brazil and in Northern California, and I'll hold it down the fort here in San Diego. So appreciate you guys. And catch you next week.
Catch you next
Obrigado, Tudos. And go to IVN, make your comments, and stay in the discussion. We appreciate all of you for listening in, and really appreciate just kind of the explosive growth of late on the platforms. We're excited to keep this going.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is the Independent Voter Podcast, sponsored by the Independent Voter Project and produced by OLAS Media. Remember, you can always find the Independent Voter Podcast or the How It Really Works series at ivn.us. Follow and subscribe at olasmedia.com.